But I think in that discussion with Connor, who has great respect for him, has given him nothing but big ups, has history of being extremely good faith, and then you beat on him like that, it kind of adds credence to what I'm saying about his equalizing mentality of I have to be mean to this man now because he's a conservative.
Do you
Now,
think it's
whether or not that comes from his audience or it comes from him feeling like he needs to even the score is neither here nor there. I just see my opinion being justified a little bit in that interaction.
Are you
That's
open to
all.
the possibility that it was two things at play? Maybe three things. Number one, maybe we caught him in it because Destiny. Listen,
Yeah, he's moved
Destiny is
fluctuates.
very
Yeah.
Destiny is very calm and tries to present himself as this master of stoicism. He's not. He is
He's
as
not.
prone. He's
No,
as prone to temper tantrums as much as anybody. Is it
right.
possible that number one, we caught him on a bad day? Number two, because Connor also likes to drop F-bombs and get, escalatory, and he likes the blood sports thing, and then walk away with no harm, no foul, that maybe Destiny felt like more comfortable, like he could say, "Oh, you stupid mother," and just go back and forth with him in that respect. So that's two.
I think Destiny has that ability to do that with certain people and know because he's very good at this, and he'll often brag that he's good at being assertive and angry and yelling, but still kind of giving off that, hey, this is friendly or this is healthy banter and I still love you kind of mentality. But with him, it was vicious.
Well, and number three, is it possible that in the moment he was that genuinely frustrated with Connor and felt that Connor was acting unusually conspiratorial for Connor's politics?
Impossible, because the standard of which he was holding Connor to in reference to showing him proof of anti-conservative behavior is a standard that he knows, and I know he knows, is unrealistic to expect from somebody. How could you ever in a million years expect there to be in the terms of service explicit language like we are targeting conservatives, or for there to be any leaks from internal correspondence, Slacks or otherwise, where it says, hey, we hate conservatives? And I'll give you a good example of this, or maybe Destiny was just unaware of some of these things, but you had that woman, Alejandro Caraballo, who was trust and safety at Twitter, got absolutely owned in front of Congress when she was openly admitting that she was throttling conservatives. And then internal leaks from those Twitter leaks showed that she was trying to get the word groomer banned, that we know was turning into a right-wing word or a conservative word to kind of get back at whatever the left-wing positions were. And Yoel Roth, who is, I think, head of safety as well, Twitter trust and safety there, was in those conversations, and they were bragging about FBI and DHS weekly meetings. And it turns out that this woman, Alejandra, had super egregious statements herself on Twitter, talking about stuff like the Supreme Court judges are an arm of white supremacy, and was calling for people to accost sitting judges. I mean, he knows this. I would think he knows this, or if he doesn't know this, how you could look at something like that and say that that's not an explicit target of conservatives, or at least harboring a culture within Twitter that is anti-conservative.
So I was curious. I know about Yoel Roth, but Alejandra Caraballo or Caraballo, I don't know if it's a double L or not, but I don't think she worked for Twitter. I think she's a journalist.
She a journalist? From my understanding, she was trust and safety, or at least was in conversations with Yoel Roth, who was.
She may have been in conversations with him, but as far as I know, she never was employed by Twitter. She's a journalist, and I just did a Google search here, and I don't see anything.
Even if that's the case, though, this was in the Twitter leaks. Was information about her and her conversations with Yoel Roth trying to get groomer banned. So.
Yeah, but that doesn't see that, and that's the thing, and that's probably the third conversation we're gonna have like at length, and maybe, who knows, maybe we could end when we eventually have our big Twitter files conversation, maybe that's something we can get you in on. I don't know, but as far as the Twitter files are concerned, let's backtrack a little bit. Number one, Connor's reputation. Let me just knock through this real quick, and I'll be super concise. Connor's reputation.
By the way, thank you for being pretty good faith and letting me know you looked it up instead of trying to act like, because I appreciate that. Yeah.
No, I mean, well, because here's the thing: like some things, again, I try to be as fact based as possible. Like even there are times even in conversations with Destiny where I'm like, I'm 99% sure that I know this to be the case, but I hesitate because I'm like, dude, what if I'm wrong and I make an asset of myself? And there have been times I've done that. So like even that, like I was like, man, I follow her on Twitter. I'm pretty sure she's just a journalist and she's never worked for Twitter before, but I wanted to double check. But yeah, no problem. There's no, anyone. I do not believe a single fucking person when they say that they had all this memorized. Don't believe them. Absolutely do not believe them. There's no every journalist and political scientist I know before they have a debate or conversation brushes themselves up on the facts, even if they teach the shit. So anyway, yeah, no problem there. But as far as like Connor's concerned, number one, I think Connor's reputation, as I told him this in a follow up conversation with Chud Logic, I think Connor's reputation with lefties and with liberals and people like Destiny and I and whoever else, I think it's a double edged sword. Yes, he should be given more of the benefit of the doubt, but by definition, we also expect more from him. So if someone like Destiny thinks that Connor's engaging in conspiratorial behavior, I understand where Connor's coming from. Like, dude, you should give me the benefit of the doubt because I've earned it. And Destiny's thinking, dude, it's precisely because I hold you to a higher standard that this is unacceptable to me. So it's just like they're missing each other. But I completely understand where Connor's coming from. That's why I try to treat him with as much good faith as possible and not engage in insults or raise my voice. Number one. Number two, as far as Twitter's bias is concerned, as far as conservatives, I don't think anyone in their right mind, and again, I don't know of any lefty who would say otherwise, if you ask them for a vibe check, like, hey, who do you think's getting banned off Twitter more? Or who seems to be high profile violations of TOS? I think most people would say conservatives.
Right. Do you go ahead?
Well, no, what I was going to say is, but the thing is, it's not because they're proposing a regressive tax rate or a higher tax on the lower class or wanting to cut tax for the rich or, support a more robust military. It just so happens that this company has a more socially progressive terms of service in terms of like inclusivity, in terms of, misgendering, in terms of these things that, yes, are more likely to catch a conservative than a progressive. But that's not that, to me, that is a much more nuanced. There's no such thing as a private company having neutral terms of service, or we see it in Truth Social.
So you're saying because conservatives happen to violate Twitter's terms of services more because of their perspective or their ideology doesn't necessarily mean that Twitter's targeting conservatives.
Correct. Absolutely.
So then let me ask you this.
Sure.
If a law is passed that demands that black people use a different water fountain, would you say that law doesn't target blacks because blacks are just violating the law if they use a white person's water fountain?
Well, no, I would say that law is targeting blacks because it's a law. Well, let me finish. It's a law targeting based on an immutable characteristic over which a person has no control.
So if Twitter has terms that are directly antithetical to,
can you be conservative without misgendering somebody on Twitter? Yes. Can you be black and not? Yes.
Stop. How? If conservatives don't believe in the idea of misgendering, then it is antithetical to a conservative opinion. What do you mean?
I'm not asking if you can, if using if not adhering to inclusive pronouns, if that's a conservative philosophy. I'm asking you, can you use a social media platform as a conservative and avoid misgendering somebody? I think the answer is obviously yes. Either address them by their name
and avoid purposely misgendering someone. Sure. But what if I'm having a discussion with someone and I'm a conservative, and let's say I'm having a conversation with you, you're trans, and you say your pronouns are she and her.
Yeah.
And I'm having a conversation with you, and I say I ask you for your pronouns up front, and we're talking on Twitter, and I call you him, and I refer to you as him, your pronouns. You report me as misgendering you. And then as a conservative, I respond, and Twitter says you're going to get banned unless you change this.
Well, then you've purposefully misgendered me, right?
Wait. No, at first it was an accident because I didn't ask you for your pronouns. It's not within my philosophy to do so. Sure. You report me as misgendering you, and then Twitter demands that I delete that tweet, or I be suspended. and I say, "Well, no, I didn't mean to at first, and I'm not going to delete the tweet because it's against my philosophy in the first place. But I didn't know that this person identified as such, and when I said it, it was a mistake. But I'm not going to delete the tweet because it's against my philosophy." And that person gets banned, which is happens.
Sure.
Is it that is and that in only that particular term is anti-conservative
Because
by nature.
but that's
You
there's
can't
no s
you can't
wait a
change
minute.
Language that is
Well, wait a minute,
beneficial
wait a
to
minute,
one
wait a
side.
minute.
Yeah, go
Let's
ahead,
set that
go ahead.
aside. Hang on.
Sure.
What I'm saying is, you can't cite me a single example of a social media company or a company anywhere that doesn't like there's no such thing as politically neutral terms of service on a social media company. Nowhere. Truth Social doesn't have one.
Back
Truth
up, back up,
Social.
back up, back up, back up, back up, back up, back up. I know you're right. I agree with you. My argument is that Destiny isn't being charitable enough towards the idea that because the terms of service actually leans in one direction, that it inherently targets a
Wait a
political
minute,
ideology.
but that's the thing. I number one, Destiny would never ever argue because if he did, he'd just be dead wrong. That Twitter's terms of service does not have a progressive bent towards it. He would never deny that.
But he's arguing, show me explicitly where it says we don't like conservatives, which I am arguing is an unrealistic standard to hold someone to because it's never going
Because
to explicitly state that. It's just going to have language that benefits one political party or ideology.
that's a different claim. It's a different claim to listen. It is a fundamentally different claim, and you might not see much distinction there, but I do, and Destiny does. It's a fundamentally different claim to say, look, social media, Twitter, just use Twitter. Twitter's terms of service are biased towards progressives. And for one reason or another, either purposeful or accidental, it means a conservative is probably much more likely to violate those terms of service and get banned as a result.
I
That
agree.
that is, wait a minute, that is a much more nuanced and reasonable argument that no one in their right mind, including Destiny, would ever disagree with. That is different than saying Twitter targets conservatives.
I agree, but he's asking Connor to show him
But
where.
Connor's making that claim. Connor's not making the
No,
nuanced claim.
watch the video
Yes.
back. Wait. Watch the video back. He explicitly states, Connor, that I am not stating that they are targeting or they are stating or that they are targeting conservatives for being conservative. He was arguing that the leaks prove that there was back end and shadow banning towards a political opinion that happens to align with conservatives. Now, you can argue that because of that, it is inadvertently targeting conservatives and it has a political bend. But what Destiny was, the standard that Destiny was holding Connor to show him an explicit statement as to where we don't like conservatives or we want conservatives not on our platform was not only what Connor wasn't arguing, but was completely uncharitable towards the position that the terms of service are bent towards a leftist ideology,
It was
especially considering everything Destiny has gone through with getting fucking yeeted off half of these platforms.
right. And so that's why I'm telling you, I am almost certain having been
Yeah,
been in the conversation. Now, granted, it was like a 9. My God, it lasted forever. Because Destiny's been burnt by that bridge or that particular torch before. And number two, because I don't think, again, I'm telling you as a dyed-in-the-wool lefty that suppressing the story of Hunter Biden's laptop was absolutely a decision which benefited the left over the right. And Destiny, I cannot imagine Destiny ever taking issue with that. So to me, if he demanded, which I
he
do seem
did,
to
though. He said
wait a
it
minute, wait a minute, wait a minute.
okay.
For I do recall him demanding that proof from Connor, but I also seem to remember Connor saying the Twitter files are proof they targeted conservatives. I do recall Connor saying that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you listened to it more recently than I have, but that is reasonable for Destiny to go prove it.
But he did say that. But what he was talking about was clear was that they were designed between the Hunter Biden laptop story, suppression of the story, and also the terms that it was designed to target conservatives. And of course, there's not going to be explicit language that says we hate conservatives, but every fucking decision that they make on the back end just seems to benefit the DNC or the leftist progressive opinion. Wait, hold on. And the thing about the Hunter Biden laptop story is I've heard Destiny argue multiple times about how this fell under the Twitter hacked materials policy and him actually advocating, saying that everything is conspiratorial in reference to them suppressing the story to help the DNC. And perhaps that's true. But from my understanding, Twitter actually expanded their policy, their hacked material policy, to try to fit in the laptop story so that
No,
they could suppress it. Is that
it
not
was
accurate?
no, it's not accurate. If
Okay.
you look at the documents in the Twitter file, like the sworn statement from Yoel Roth and his attorney, the laptop violated. The laptop was interpreted to be a violation of the hacked materials policy at the time the policy was in effect. Then, after they actually decided to walk back their decision on the Hunter Biden laptop, then I'm pretty sure they updated their policy to reflect their subsequent decision to not suppress discussion of the laptop or anything else, just direct links or whatever to like the nude photos and everything.
But they
But it
weren't
was
going to allow but they weren't going to allow it to trend or circulate. You can only share it. It could not it would not be boosted.
I don't recall that being in the I
Well,
recall that they I
instead of
recall
us
that they
yeah.
I recall that they said that it wouldn't trend when they initially banned it. That's true, but I don't recall after they let the convert like after they walked it back and said, "Okay, look, you guys can talk about it. The only thing that you can't do is just link to articles or whatever with hacked materials in it
Yeah,
or
and I
or close to
also
hacked
remember,
materials."
and I also remember to that respect, I also remember Connor explicitly stating, "You might be right. I want to go back and I want to look at this a little more closely so we can have a better discussion about that because I believe that you're wrong." And then it there was a constant and relentless harping on basically calling him a conspiracy theorist,
So
basically berating him for literally saying, "Let's go back and let's have a discussion about that." Which is
yeah,
what I'm going to say to you right now is instead of me trying to debate with Destiny Mean, maybe it is better I have a conversation with him, and maybe it's better that me and you actually set up a conversation for you and I to discuss the Twitter files after we could both maybe take a
yeah, so and I'd be open to that as well. We'll add that to the fourth pile of things.
yeah
That's
yeah
okay because we're gonna be long
in
term
November,
collaborators.
yeah
Yeah, but the only thing I would just say is again, and maybe you were just paraphrasing, so I don't want this as a gotcha. But when you said Connor was making the case that the policy was designed, I recall you saying that about 3 minutes ago, was designed to target conservatives. Again, I think that there's a very important distinction to be made there. I will absolutely agree with you that the decision to suppress the Hunter Biden story benefited the Biden campaign and therefore the Democrats and therefore the left in
right,
general.
but you're not saying it was designed to
No, and
help
there's
or
no and
hurt the
there's no
conservatives.
evidence to support that. And furthermore, consider a counterfactual. What if they'd made the opposite decision? You know what? This potentially violates the hacked materials policy, but we're going to let it go.
Like
Would
they
you
did
be
with
saying?
Trump's tax returns, you mean?
Would you be saying, well, they didn't, but they didn't link to hacked material. They only linked to articles discussing the hacked material. They didn't link to actual, like anything that had a link to the leaked tax returns. It was not allowed. It was also suppressed on those same grounds. That's the difference. It would link to articles talking about the Hunter Biden leaks. But if that link had pictures of dick and crack and whatever else or potential violations of the hacked materials, then Twitter wouldn't allow it. That was the
Did
distinction.
they suspend the New York Times like they suspended the New York Post? Or?
The New York Times, I'm 90% sure the New York Times link didn't include the hacked material or the leaked material in it. 99% sure.
What did it?
Whatever
It didn't include a link to the article that had the tax return or
it
discussion of
didn't
the
it
tax
didn't
return.
have
Oh.
it did not have the actual copies of the leaked tax returns in it. It was only an article about the leaked tax returns. That's the difference. The issue with the New York Post article wasn't that it was about a leaked laptop or a potentially leaked laptop. It had contents from a potentially leaked laptop in it, like pictures and information.
Potentially hacked. You mean?
Right. Yes, potentially hacked. So, but getting back to it, let's consider a counterfactual where they did allow the Hunter Biden story to stand. As a
Mhm.
conservative, would you be saying they made a decision designed to benefit conservatives?
Um, I think that's a tough one because if you're allowing a story, you're allowing people to make a judgment call. When you're suppressing a story, you're making the call for them.
Well, no, because I would. Well, the story, you can't be agnostic on the story, right? The story being, there's a reason that they tried to make this an October surprise, because just by getting it out there, just like all misinformation, it does poison the well. Information or misinformation, it influences, right?
Right.
So my, are you saying that does why was the Republican Party, why was the Trump campaign, and why were conservatives upset that the link was suppressed? Because they wanted it to influence the election, which means they knew just the link being out there would have an effect, right?
Of
So
course.
clearly it's not neutral.
Right.
It's either the link being there benefits conservatives, or the link not being there benefits liberals. It
Right.
benefits.
The link being there, you're deciding to take no action versus taking an action.
Well, no,
So you're arguing, hang on, you're arguing that allowing it to stand is as much of an action as actually suppressing the story
I'm
by
not even
Twitter.
saying it's.
By
I'm not
Twitter.
even saying it's as much. I'm saying it is an action one way or another, and I don't know if it's even.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're saying it's as much of an action to leave the story than it is to suppress the story, is what you're saying, correct?
When you
That's the
have to
claim you're
make
making.
when you have to make a decision about a thing that potentially violates a policy, letting it stand is an action. Suppressing it is also an action. There's no agnostic here. You have to make a choice. Do I keep it up or do I take it down?
But how?
Sure.
But it was not hacked, the laptop. So
They well, based on their hacked materials policy, it did violate, because it had like private, it had like email addresses, nude pictures, things like that, that they had absolute reason to believe were the products of a hacked materials policy. Based on the
from my
information
from
they
my
knew what it.
understanding from my understanding, the from my understanding, the fact that it was hacked, it was determined that it wasn't hacked material afterwards. Is that wrong? Again, I
we
gotta brush up on this. This is a
we
while
we
ago.
we well, no, so it wasn't hacked, because it was left in the hands of that, well, according to the
Right. What I'm saying
information
is,
they had.
what I'm saying is, from my understanding, Twitter eventually determined that it actually did not violate the policy originally. Is that correct?
No, 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 no. They determined it did violate the policy at the time.
No, no. I'm saying I know at the time. I'm saying afterwards they actually determined
Yes, because
that.
I don't think, as far as I know, you still can't share pictures of Hunter Biden's dick or his private email address or anything like that. There's still contents that will still get you banned. Um,
I'd have to look. I'd have to look at it because I wonder. You know, that's a good question. I probably agree with you, but I think I want to look at it a little more because
Feel
I
free, because I could be wrong on it, and I'll be honest with you, I don't look for, like,
no,
I keep
I
it's
think
kind of
yeah.
it's kind of surprising to me to this day. I still have to remind myself that pornography is on Twitter, because the accounts
I
I
know.
follow are not
Yeah.
pornographic. So as far as I know, there's still no you there they might be there, but they're my understanding is they're not there very long. Like pictures of Hunter Biden's genitals, or pictures of him with hookers or whatever, all these things, like that's still not allowed on Twitter, as far as I know, nor like social security numbers or banking information or private email addresses, blah, 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 all these things are still not allowed on Twitter.
By the
And
way,
that was. Hmm?
crack and whores is pretty fucking based. I don't know why.
Well, I know. I mean, see, if he had ran for president himself, he would have won by an even bigger margin. Instead of winning by 7 million votes, a Biden would have won by like 70. Like
Yeah.
Trump wouldn't have gotten a single one. But anyway, but my thing is, I don't think a conservative would accept the argument from, and maybe you would, because you're not cookie cutter, but I don't think most Republicans, conservatives, I don't even know if Connor would accept the idea, like, hey, look, they let the laptop story stand, so they implemented a policy, or effectuated a policy. They interpreted a policy in a way that was designed to benefit the Republican Party or Donald Trump. I don't think they would accept that. I think a conservative would say, no, 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 it just so happened in this particular instance to benefit Trump and conservatives, but that wasn't the intention. Like, that's not the goal, the fiendish goal. Like, yes, anything to get Trump elected. So that's where I think it was ultimately the issue with Connor in Destiny. Is I think they're both prone to hyperbole. They're both prone to aggression. They're both prone to, use. And I think they both overstated, or Connor overstated his position. And then Destiny, I understand where you're coming from in terms of the burden of proof, Um, but that's also why we were supposed to eventually have a follow-up conversation, and it didn't happen because of Destiny's Internet. I don't know if it'll happen now because I think the meta's probably moved so far past it. But we were all like four of us were supposed to have another conversation again about it, and it just didn't happen. So
Yeah. I mean, I'll leave with this because I got to get to some family, but I'll leave with this. I think I agree with you that I would argue probably that yeah, it would be an action that benefited the Republicans if they allowed it to stand. However, I think there's probably a philosophical conundrum we can get into if later it was decided that it actually did not originally violate the even if they thought at the time it violated the hack materials policy. I think there's a philosophical conversation we can have if later it came out that it didn't actually originally violate the policy, and if they allowed that story to stand. You follow what I'm saying? Like I feel like we could have a deeper discussion on that because if it turns out
like that they tried to contour the policy, like they felt at the time it really didn't violate it as written, so they tried to contour it around it. They
not even. What I'm even if Twitter thought at the time it completely violated the policy, but then it turned out later, and they left it, and then it turned out later that it didn't actually violate the policy, versus they feel like it violated the policy, so they took down the story, and then later it came out that it didn't actually violate the policy. I feel like there's a philosophical conversation we can get into where you could kind of say this is why sometimes it's beneficial to just kind of leave shit the way it is because you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, if you take the action of removing it. Um, Now whether or not you agree with that, I feel like you could have a kind of a good conversation as to whether
Well, it's ultimately about where you want to air, right? And you may want
yeah,
to air on one place, and I might want to air a
exactly.
different place.
Yeah.
But and listen, I think that some of these conversations are still worth having, even if there's no objective determination for it. Like this is, that's the thing about matters of philosophy, right? You can make a reasonable case either one, and it ultimately comes down to preferences. And I still think conversations like that are worthwhile. So that might be our fifth conversation that we need to have. Hey, you! Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, and I hope that you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. And if you absolutely hated the video, the best revenge for you is also to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. That'll teach me. If you want to share an opinion or share some feedback, go ahead and leave a comment, all right? 2023 is a year of change, hence the aggressive rebrand and commitment to new content. Inspired by my friends Luke Beasley and STV Philly, my personal goal for this channel is to hit 40,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So I'm hoping you'll do me a solid by spreading the word and the videos to potential fans and hate watchers alike. And in the meantime, we'll be pondering politics again with you very soon.